playing and just noticed the lights weren't on. I was like, well, I got it on free play. Is that something? I can't remember if they ever come on, you know. Opened it up and oop, I guess I'll pay attention here. Got a nice cold solder joint right there. But they're still not coming on. Two red wires. Back to this. Good question. So I didn't have lights on the coin door, the 25-cent red light there. Got a bad solder joint on one of the bulbs, but that wasn't the issue. Traced the wire to one of the connectors up front, still no power. Came back to the filter board, and currently, get my hand out of the way, this wire here was plugged over to the left. I have it in a port that's designated for it, which even though I got it unplugged, it's still on. It went a little dim, but so yeah, but now the light works. So and while I had the connector off, I pulled the connectors out of the white holder and spread them open a little bit. And even on the board itself, made sure the posts were, you know, in line. Everything looked good there, but so I'd have to put pressure on the connector, and then it would light the bulb up front. But if I switch the connector over where it's at now, things just fine. Wiggle it and all that, no problems. So must be a bad solder joint on that connector there. The 5 volt. The ground side's okay. It just seems to be the 5 volt pin. TNA CE has this power filter board in the back right hand corner as you're facing it, and basically everything goes to this and then feeds out. So my issue was on the coin door, the two red lights, you know, where the 25-cent indicators are at, where you put your quarters in, those weren't lit up. It's like, huh. So I opened the door and there was a cold solder joint. The wire had come off. While the machine was on, I tapped that to it. It still didn't come on. So I back traced the wire, you know, checked the connector up by the coin box area, kind of. It was good and seated, but wouldn't get any voltage. Went on back to the power filter board. It sits in there like this, and this connector here uses a 5 volt that runs up 2 wires, black and red, up to the coin door. So it was plugged in. I put my probes on the back of the wires, nothing. Still wasn't getting 5 volts. So, you know, I gave it a little more pressure with the probe, and then it came on. It's like, oh, you know, maybe a bad metal connector inside one of these. So you can press on here and slide the wire and the connector out. Looked at the red one, it looked good. Didn't even worry about the black because I knew it was on the red lead, just the way it was feeling and working. And when the wires were in here, I could push on it sideways like this and it would get connection. So that's why I wasn't sure if maybe one of the legs just wasn't hitting the connector in there. So I went down the rabbit hole checking the connectors and all that. But so those all checked out. Plugged it back in, same thing. I even bent the metal connector in here out a little bit before I inserted it, just to see if it put more pressure on it, but that wasn't the answer. I went ahead and unplugged the 5-volt one next to it, which runs to the LCD. I'm sorry, the scoreboard. And plugged the coin door into there, lit up fine, no connection issue. So I knew it was this port. Just pulled the board out. And of course you want to be careful of capacitors in case they're still charged up. But right there you can see one of the legs is actually, let me get better on here. There you go. One of the legs actually popped free. I hadn't even tried to push it down yet, but yeah, it's a snug fit. But a lot of cold looking solder joints on this thing. You know, at first I really don't see any traces. It's like, oh man, I don't know, you know, like I've worked on the other style, but it kind of looks like there's just a pad under here that I get to deal with, so maybe it ain't like too crazy. So I'm gonna clean all this up and resolder it, see what happens. Just got done resoldering it, and I figured I'd show you a little bit here. I marked the wires before I pulled them off. Even though I made schematics for everything on here, I figured, hey, be safe, right? Just another little tip. Your typical, you know, screwdriver that uses a bit, fit these, and it's also a slotted head. I'm sure that can vary, just depends what they got. But of course, every one of them is pretty much stripped out. It won't grab anything. Yeah, it's not gonna come up. I'm not saying the base and the shaker won't make it loose, but you definitely might want to think about some longer screws. Be careful. Of course, the bottom's only 7/16 thick, but so I just want to give you another little thing, close up there. So it is kind of labeled, and just keep in mind your black and red is 5-volt. Yellow and black 12, and of course you got some oranges there, which is the 48-volt. But so I'm gonna hook all these up and then we'll give her another try. I guess I've been saying that wrong. These ain't red, they're green. The lights are white. I have just seen these red and thinking of the other ones. Oh yeah, it's red. Yeah. More green. And Suzo Hap.